9.99. There it is, 100,000 miles driven on this Ford Mustang Mach-E. I am literally just about to pull over because I am going to do a video for you guys right at this very moment. So this is a big deal, big moment. We got to step outside of the car and just show you exactly the very spot that we just hit the 100,000 miles. And there it is. There she is. 100,000 miles on my Ford Mustang Mach-E. That is right. That is 100,000 miles on my 2021 Ford Mustang Mach-E First Edition. This is a very proud moment, a very awesome moment, at least for myself and probably for the EV community out there. I'm sure you guys are going to be having a lot of questions, a lot of concerns and everything, and this is what this video is all about. We're going to be sharing my experience over the last 4 years of ownership, 100,000 mile ownership, and I'm pretty sure you guys are going to be having so many questions, especially when it comes to the battery and everything and so forth. My name is Mach Batista, and this is Charging the Road. Is that the McAllister house? Hello and welcome to Charging the Road. My name is Mach Batista, and this is my 2021 Ford Mustang Mach-E First Edition. She just recently reached to 100,000 miles, and this is what this video is all about. We're going to be talking about what it's been like to driving to 100,000 miles, how's it been holding up, battery-wise, cosmetic-wise, how things have been holding up, and so forth. So there's a lot to talk about in this video, but let's get ourselves started. By the way, please excuse the noise. We're actually out in nature in Bolingbrook, Illinois. I found this really cute spot for me to film. But anyways, talking about my Mustang Mach-E, she is a 2021 First Edition. What stands out as a First Edition is really just cosmetic differences, because this is just a premium, fully spec'd, fully loaded with the glass roof, the Bang & Olufsen sound system. But what makes it different is the cosmetic look. Basically, you have the red calipers, although the other models do have the red calipers, but then you get the blue mirror caps, which is pretty cool. The door sill actually says First Edition, which is really, really awesome. And then of course the interior is actually blue stitching as opposed to white stitching. And by the way, she does have a name. Her name is Bluebird Chun-Li. Bluebird Chun-Li, as in the Street Fighter Chun-Li. So to talk about how we got to 100,000 miles. 50,000 happy miles, 50,000 unhappy miles. What I mean by that is that 50,000 of those miles were enjoyment, rather as commuting, going on cross-country road trips, which I did from LA to Chicago, back and forth 3 times, and of course, a couple more to Toronto, and of course, there's that video I did from Chicago to Schenectady, New York, and to New Haven, Connecticut, and then all the way back. Now, the other 50,000 miles, that's something I'm not exactly very proud of, but it's something I had to do. Basically, for me to survive financially, because there has been some financial hardships that's been happening with me because I do work in the film industry and things hasn't been looking so good. So one of the things for me to keep myself financially stable is doing rideshare. That's where those 50,000 miles are coming from. As you can tell, I do both Uber and Lyft. Lately, I've been doing more Uber just because I get more business. But yeah, we were actually at about 106,000 miles with this car as of this recording, and she's been holding up pretty well. But before we get ourselves into the mechanical parts and the battery parts, because I know you guys have been looking forward to that information, I want to show you guys around the wear and tear, how the car's been holding up and so forth, exterior and interior wise. But to get ourselves started with the exterior, there is a couple things I want to get out of the way, the elephant in the room. You know, driving in Chicago in comparison to Los Angeles is definitely different. Los Angeles, everybody drives fast. Chicago, everybody drives really pushy. I bid you not. People are so freaking pushy around here. Unfortunately, the car has been dinged twice. I've been hit twice, which obviously was not my fault actually. But I've been sideswiped about 2 years ago. And then about 9 months later, I got rear-ended. Luckily, the damages for both is not too severe. It doesn't look you know, like from the distance doesn't look too bad at all. But the backside, unfortunately, one of the sensors got popped out. And so it's kind of freaking out whenever I go in reverse, it starts to beep a little crazy. So that's the unfortunate thing. And, you know, I haven't been able to get around to fixing it because financial part, but once things get better for me financially, then for sure, she's gonna be fixed up cosmetic wise. And then she's gonna look great. And the other thing too is that I'm missing, so you guys can tell, missing the flap. The flap's gone. It's just been pulled out. Don't know what happened, don't know where it went, but I'm gonna be placing an order for it. I found that there's a place online that can actually order the part and actually paint it for me. So yeah, I'm just gonna do it myself just to reinstall it, but just want to get that out of the way. But moving on, I've never heard of the concept of PPF when I first purchased the car. I'm new to a lot of things. The way I grew up, I didn't know a lot of things, to be honest. So when I purchased the car, I didn't even know there was a thing called a PPF, basically paint protection film, so I never got it. But if I knew about it, I actually would have been able to afford it and apply it to my car. So unfortunately, my Mach-E doesn't have paint protection film, which means with all the road trips I've been doing, with all the drivings around Chicago that I've been doing, especially with like dump trucks trying to get in front of me, and then all of a sudden debris just kind of hits my car. So yeah, there's been some rock chips, but yeah, other than that, but as far as for the paint job and everything wise, I'm planning on just fixing up the car, everything, you know, cosmetic wise, and then getting the paint refurbished again. Once I am back financially stable, then I'm going to have a lot of big plans for the Mach-E, which later on I'll explain what my future plans are for the Mach-E. And now we're in the interior of the Mustang Mach-E, my Mustang Mach-E, of course. Now, if we're talking about the interior wear and tear, I mean, honestly, it's going to be quite typical, to be honest. There's the piano black that's got a little bit of scuffs. That's as expected. My seat is pretty worn out, considering, you know, I've driven over 100,000 miles in this car. I've done a lot of road trips. I've done a lot of driving for rideshare. The wear and tear on this, it's as expected. It looks as it's been worn out. Has the cushion been flat? Not entirely. I can feel a teeny bit that it's been a little flat, but it's still comfy at the end of the day. But after a while, for about 4 to 6 hours driving straight, it does kind of feel a little strained after a while, especially in my lower back, you know, considering I'm a little overweight. Trust me, I am working out. I'm going to be working out and then getting back into fitness, of course. But yeah, that's definitely as expected. And then again, if you look at the interior too, this is but yeah, other than that, like, you know, there's going to be typical wear and tears where my hands, or, you know, where my hands have been touching most of the time. Like, for example, the door here as I'm handling to get in and out of the car, this is a little worn out. The steering wheel itself, overall, it looks worn out. Actually, it looks more worn out on the left side of the steering wheel as opposed to the right side, because half the time I will be driving with just one hand, and then I'll be using my left hand majority of the time, just because I need access to my turn-in signal. And then also, if you look at the steering wheel too, there is the cruise control buttons and the volume knob buttons here. The paint, the black paint, has started to peel off. It's been doing that over time, and I expect for that to continuously peel off, but I'm trying to preserve it as best possible. And of course, the armrest is a little worn out too, because half the time, this is how I have my armrest, because that's what it is. It's an armrest. And then, of course, because I'm doing rideshare, the back seat, you know, the seats themselves are actually still quite in good shape, and they don't look like doesn't look like they've been worn out. There's no scratches, no scuffs. Thank goodness, because I picked up some great passengers. However, in the door sill on the rear passenger side, you can just see that it's just like all scratched up, all worn up, as expected. So there's only so much I can do with it. But I mean, other than that, like, if you take care of your car in general very well, it will treat you right. So that's been great. You know, my screen's still good. Everything else has been great. So everything else still works, still functions very well. My seat functions still 100%. The knob and everything still works 100%. Although I will say the power stop button, I just have to make sure I press the brake in as deep as possible, just so I can get off in accessory mode. But other than that, I mean, like, the interior wise, wear and tear has been great. The trunk though, it's got scuffs, unfortunately, because of luggages in and out and so forth. But hey, everything else has been great. And speaking of the driver's seat, I want to talk about the ride quality overall. How's it been holding up with the Mustang Mach-E? I mean, so far the suspension feels great. The ride quality overall feels great. Acceleration, I will say this though, because of over-the-air software updates, they have tamed the speed down on this, and I think a lot has to do with the high voltage battery junction box, just to make sure that the contactors doesn't get overheat. Honestly, for me, I'm totally okay with that, because I can definitely tell you in the very beginning, this used to feel a lot faster, but now they definitely tamed it down. So it's like, it feels like instead of going from 4.2 seconds, 0 to 60 4.2 seconds, to 0 to 60 to 5.2 seconds. Honestly, for me, that's totally okay, because I'd rather play safe than sorry at this point. And then going back to the driving experience, the driving aspect, using the one pedal drive, it's been phenomenal, especially during, when there's like a lot of traffic in Chicago roads, just a slight in and out for the one pedal drive. It's been great, especially driving in whisper mode. It's been really smooth. Even to this day, it still runs pretty smooth. There's no slips or anything like that. Although I will mention one thing, speaking of slips. As I'm slowing down, whether it's using my friction brakes or the one pedal drive motors, regenerating it back, whenever I hit a bump as I'm slowing down, for some reason, the car or the brakes skips. So it feels like it slips. Basically, it slips. It's like you're slowing and it slips and it slows down again. That's something that I'm hoping maybe one day they can address it, but that's kind of a concern. It freaks me out whenever that happens, because I don't think any other car does that, but that's something to just kind of worth mentioning. And then speaking of suspensions, the suspensions themselves, it feels stiff enough, which is great, because if you're doing a lot of fun turnings, because this car is fun to drive. It really is. Even to this day, it's still fun to drive. It still feels great. The steering wheel feels great. It feels good enough, honestly. But I will mention this though, with the suspension, doing all those fun roads and trips and everything feels good, especially on smooth roads. Now, when it comes to Chicago roads, when there's a ton of potholes, a ton of bippity bumpity roads, this car cannot handle it very well. If it's loud with the clish clash cush, and then it's just so loud when you hit those roads, and then it just doesn't handle the bumps very well. It's not very smooth, so sometimes I kind of get nauseous. I'm not gonna lie, kind of gets a little nauseous the more bumpy roads I hit around Chicago. But it is what it is. Now keep this in mind, this is a 21 Mach-E. There's no MagneRide in this. I test drove a 24 Mach-E GT with the MagneRide, and I was hitting those bumpy roads. That handled way better than this car, and I was having so much fun with that car, by the way, when I was test driving it. But really, at the end of the day, for the roads with the suspensions, it just doesn't handle very well, in my opinion. I've driven the Chevrolet Bolt AUV. That handles so much better. I've driven gas-powered cars. Those handled so much better than this car. And I think a lot of it has to do with the suspension and how heavy the car is. So it's like amplifying each other with those bumpy roads. But it is what it is. The one cool feature that I really like a lot is the over-the-air software updates. Now, I will say that the over-the-air software updates have been making a lot of significant improvements. Like, for example, the user interface on the touch screen. A lot of the stuff has been changed over time, as far as like kind of rearranging the icons and what's supposed to be efficiency and everything and whatnot. But I will admit though that overall, like, I kind of miss the old UI, but at the same time, I do like the new UI. Like, for example, the volume knob here, before in the beginning, it was just the volume knob. It wasn't being used for the cabin temperature or the cabin air flow, but now it's being utilized for both the cabin temperature and the airflow, and like pretty much the fan speed. That's what I meant to say, the fan speed, which has been great overall. And then also the over-the-air software updates, not just the UI, but also the overall car performance has it has tried to improve the braking and whatnot. It has improved a little bit, but not so much. The other thing that the OTA has done as well is finally provide us with the Blue Cruise. without the OTA, we couldn't get the Blue Cruise, and then they continuously update the Blue Cruise, which has been great. So keeping the car freshen up for today's world, you know, just kind of tweaking things a little bit here and there. It's like a cell phone, which has been great. And then the one OTA that I can literally say is my favorite OTA is the charging curve. The charging curve went from 80% of 14 kilowatts to 80% of 43 kilowatts. So basically the charging performance has improved greatly, because if you were to do a DC fast charging from 0% to 100% in the very beginning, that would have taken 2.5 hours. But now, through my calculations and through everybody else's calculation, it now only takes 90 minutes. Now, again, I will remind you guys that you really don't want it to be DC fast charging to 100% all the time. Maybe sometimes here and there if you do need it. So I highly recommend you unplug either 80% or 90% and you'll be done with it. Now, speaking of over-the-air software updates with the charging, happy to know that the Ford Mustang Mach-E over time gained access to the Tesla Supercharger, as noted right here. I'm actually here at the Tesla Supercharger 52 Hall site near Chicago O'Hare Airport as I'm charging up my Ford Mustang Mach-E. Now, talking about the charging leads to the battery. Now, this is the subject that most of you guys have been curious about. Well, surprisingly to know that the battery health is actually quite good. Now, you'll be surprised to know that the battery health is actually quite good. However, I've been getting a couple different readings. First, in the OBD dongle display, this is how I'm getting the figurations for the battery health. Statistics, the high voltage battery health is at 91%. However, after making several calculations as far as like how many kilowatts is being charged to the battery versus what it was, like say for example, the Ford Mustang Mach-E, my 21 Mustang Mach-E first edition has 88 kilowatt usable battery. However, when I'm charging, I get up to at least 83 kilowatts, in between 83 and 84 kilowatts, thus calculating right around 5%, which means the battery has been degraded only 5%. However, again, going back with the battery health, it's at 91%. So anybody in the comments section down below, please let me know what those figurations mean with the 91 versus 95. But I'm gonna guess that it's going to be right around 95% battery health, that this battery has only been degraded by about 5%. Hopefully that's correct. But the surprising fact behind it is that I've been DC fast charging 80% of the time. 20% has been home charging, whether it's level 1, level 2 from when I had my condo. But most of the time, because I'm doing rideshare, and when I was living in Los Angeles, I was doing DC fast charging. So I'm estimating right around 80% of the time, I've been DC fast charging. However, I will note that I don't charge it all the way up to 100% all the time. There has been small handful of times where they charge up to 100% just because I need it, or just for statistic-wise stuff or whatnot. But most of the time I've been charging to like 80% to 90%, and that's how the battery has been performing. And honestly, it's been great. And because of the over-the-air software update, the charging curve has definitely been improved a lot. For example, when I first got the Mustang Mach-E, when hitting 80%, it goes straight down to 14 kilowatts. With the software update now, it's been improved a lot. It goes to just 41 to 43 kilowatts, and it starts to smooth off once you get to like 95% state of charge. So that being said, just to conclude, my battery's health is actually quite good. It's actually been really good. Again, she's over 100,000 miles, actually 106,000 miles from the time of this recording, and the battery's only been degraded by about 5%. And I'm still getting great range. Like, I've been calculating that my range is still at 270 miles. I think that's actually quite impressive. Probably more impressed at the fact that it's holding up very well, especially after DC fast charging 80% of the time. All right, so let's actually talk about the maintenance so far in the Mach-E. So far the maintenance I had to take care of were the air cabin filter, windshield washer fluid. That's something I can take care of myself. But there were a couple things I had to take care of as well in addition to that. I had a problem with the CV axle for both both sides and the front. That actually cost me roughly around $1,200 that it was not covered under warranty. So basically what happened was, as I was turning hard left or turning hard right, it was making these clicking noises. And so that was something that had to be taken care of, because like if I kept on going on without getting those replaced, it could have been a lot more severe. There could have been a lot more severe damage to it. So luckily I got those replaced. And the other thing I had to take care of too as well, as far as maintenance wise, was the 12-volt battery. It's been 4 years now. So luckily I got a couple fair warnings with the app to say like, hey, you know, your 12-volt battery might be dying. So we run a test. The battery's right around 60-ish% health. So we got that recovered, and luckily the cost didn't cost too much at all. It was like $130. So yeah, $1,200, $130 didn't cost too much at all. And then my tires. I'm on my second set already, but the funny thing is with my second set is that I didn't get them replaced all at the same time. Because this is an all-wheel drive, you want to get the tires replaced all at the same time. That's what's recommended. But I had one tire popped, then the next tire popped, then the next tire lost air, then the next tire got more bald than George Costanza. So right now in my second set, as you can see, actually this is starting to bald pretty big. Actually, this is the first tire that got replaced, this side here. But I'm planning on buying a new set soon. It's gonna be the Hankook Ion EV tires, and then I'm gonna get them all replaced all at the same time. Now, as far as with the brakes, I haven't changed out the brakes yet. I've been told that the brakes are at 50% life because I've been driving with the one pedal drive throughout this whole time. So there's no need to change them right now. Although in the future, once I'm more financially stable, I do want to get the brakes, brake pads changed out, and possibly the rotors as well, because I'm sure like it may need to be replaced anyways. Oh, and then one more thing. This is something that is worth talking about. It's the high voltage battery junction box. Now, this was a major issue that happened to me in the first year of ownership, because I got this in 2021. So I've had this for 4.5 years as of this date. I bought it in February of 2021. And the problem with the high voltage battery junction box dates all the way back to, I want to say, May of 21. I've noticed there was an issue that arose as I was making my road trip from Los Angeles to Portland, Oregon. I had like a service soon indicator, but eventually that went away. And then headed back to LA, everything was okay. But then I started making my way over to Chicago from Los Angeles. You've seen that first video, my first road trip video. And then as I was descending in the Rocky Mountains towards Denver on the I-70, that's when I got that dreaded warning that says, stop safely now. And basically I'm in the middle of a highway going super fast, going downhill. Luckily I was able to pull over to the side, and within 10 minutes I was able to turn the car back on again, and I was on my merry way, which was kind of weird. And I was able to reach Chicago just safely. But sometime in Chicago, about a week later, I went out to Galloping Ghost, the world's largest retro arcade. Better go check it out. As soon as we were done with that, went back to the car, we tried to turn on the car, stop safely now. I figured, okay, maybe after 10 minutes, turn it back on, everything will be okay. Nope. What I tried doing, I tried boosting the 12-volt battery. I thought it was a 12-volt battery. So I tried boosting the 12-volt battery and everything, nothing could work. So we ended up getting that towed to Westfield Ford. Shout out to Westfield Ford in Countryside. And they couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. We both thought it was a 12-volt battery. So they gave me a boost on the 12-volt battery, and it worked from there. So once I got the car back, which took about 2.5 weeks, I drove around for a while just to make sure everything looks great. Everything is great, running well, and everything. Make sure it didn't turn off. And from my experience, everything was great. Right up until I started making my way back from Chicago to Los Angeles. Ended up in Denver, did some DC fast charging, stopped in to get some lunch, and as soon as I got my lunch, got back to my car, stopped safely now, once more. And so I figured at that point, okay, maybe the 12-volt battery itself is what's defected. So I towed it to Phil Long Ford. Shout out to Phil Long Ford in Denver, Colorado. And I had to take a flight back to LA and then come back a week later because they got the 12-volt battery replaced for me. Now, at the time, the parts were pretty scarce, so it took a while for them to get the 12-volt battery, but I was actually surprised how fast they were able to get it. So they were to replace the 12-volt battery. Everything was great. All right, cool. So I'm like, okay, at that point right now, I want to be extra careful. So whenever I'm not needing to drive the car, I turn off the car. So I wanted to be extra careful as I was making my way back from Denver to Los Angeles. So I reached to Los Angeles. I double parked my car to unload my stuff. And as soon as I'm done unloading my stuff, went back to my car. Stop safely now. So what happened was there was no other choice. I can move the car. It was bricked. So I let the car double park where it was at. Luckily, it was like literally steps away from my apartment. Pretty much around 6 a.m. Once I woke up, first thing I did is I call a tow truck, get it towed to Santa Monica Ford, because I figure at that point, they're gonna have to figure out what's wrong with the car, because it's obviously not the 12-volt battery. And here's the part where it kind of got me frustrated, because for them to figure out what was wrong with the car, it took them 7 months. That is correct. 7 months for me to get this car back. And now we're just waiting for Bluebird Chun-Li to show up. Everything's all good to go. Got my paperwork, and we're gonna talk about just about everything that went down. There she is. I cannot believe my own eyes. She's here, she's ready. Santa Monica Ford couldn't figure out exactly what was going on. So I told them everything, my experience and everything. So they figured, okay, it's not the 12-volt battery. So we have to figure out what's going on with it. But I feel like the reason why it took 7 months is because after a while, when the service department couldn't figure out what it was, I'm pretty sure they gave up on the car. They didn't took it serious with the repairs and everything. So from here, I want to give a huge shout out to Patrick Anderson of the Electric Duo, formerly known as the Mach-E vlog. Without his help, I was not be able to get the attention of the Ford executives of the severity of the issue, what was going on with the car. Because of him, I was able to get the engineers to come to Santa Monica to have a look at the car. And basically, they showed me everything what was going on. When I got there, the entire car was, I want to say the entire car, but a lot of the stuff was like pulled apart. And they later determined is the high voltage battery junction box. So what happened is that when the contactors were so hot, they split open and it couldn't weld back in order for it to conduct more energy from the big battery pack to the 12-volt battery. So that's exactly what happened. That was caused through excessive DC fast charging, excessive driving for a long time. Not exactly just like hard on the acceleration all the time. We're talking about just like continuously driving for such a long time. And then of course there's the heat. Because of course I went through Nevada, Las Vegas. Temperatures was like scorching hot, like 125, 128 degrees. So of course it's put a lot of strain onto the electrical components of the Mach-E. But yeah, basically after 7 months, the car was finally fixed. It was delivered back to me. By the way, no apologies from Santa Monica Ford to say, hey, we're so sorry it took so long, but your car's ready. They told me like, hey, your car's ready. I was just happy to get my car back. But after I got the high voltage battery junction box fixed, that time, it happened again. So the second time that actually happened was, I believe, the fall of 23. This is coming back from my trip from Schenectady, New York. And about 30 minutes before reaching to Chicago, I got that warning. Luckily, it wasn't stop safely now warning. It was a power malfunction, whatever. I was still able to drive, but the power was cut by half just to be on a safe side. So I was able to drive back to my apartment at the time. And then first thing in the morning, I called up Westfield Ford, told them like, hey, I got a problem with it. So they checked it out. Same thing, high voltage battery junction box. And luckily there was enough parts, so they were able to get it done in about 2 months and replaced it with another high voltage battery junction box. And then about 2 to 3 months later, the issue came back again. The third time, the high voltage battery junction box got affected once more. Luckily, same thing. It was just a half power malfunction. I was still able to drive it, but of course I had to bring it into the dealership for repairs as soon as possible. And at that point, they were able to provide me with a new version of the junction box. So basically it's a lot more efficient, a lot more configured. And literally days after I got my car back from that, by the way, that took about a month. But literally days after I got my car back, that's when Ford initiated a recall for the junction box. So I think, theoretically, I'm not sure, I could be wrong about this, but I think this very car, this very Mach-E is responsible for providing that recall, because I think my junction box was the first known of its kind, because nobody could figure out what it was. But anyways, the first time, 7 months, it was so frustrating. I knew you guys were thinking, why don't you just, take it back through lemon law? This is my baby. I love my baby. This is so much fun to drive. I stuck by it, and then she's still here. You know what? After 50,000 miles, by the way, the third time that happened for the junction box issue, it was roughly around 50,000 miles. So 50,000 miles later, she's working just fine. And I'm very proud of it. Now, I've done a video talking about my likes and dislikes of the Mach-E so far. Now, I do want to talk about a couple things what I do like in the long-term wise. So we're talking about just long-term wise. What I do like, the fact that the build quality has held up so well with this car. So this is no exception. This has been awesome. The other I like is just the fact that, this is Ford's first all-electric vehicle built from the ground up. Aside from the issue with the high voltage battery junction box, everything else looks great. Like, the battery is still working 100%. I want to say 100%, but there hasn't been an issue where any of the battery cells went out or anything like that. Other than that, everything's been great. The ride quality has held up. The friction brakes is still at 50% health, which is amazing. I will say this though, what I don't like overall is the fact that this screen still lags, and it's been lagging more ever since. Now, here's the thing. Technology continuously moves and progress every 6 months. So even though this screen is extremely impressive, it's 15.5 inches, portrait mode, people are so wild about this screen, which is amazing. Me being a tech nerd, I feel that the resolution is not as high as some other cars, like the Chevrolet Blazer EV that I actually drove for my trip in California. Their screen is a much higher resolution than this screen, and then also too, it lags. Like when you're pressing to navigate around the screen, it takes a long time, and then when you're trying to move around the map, it lags as well. So that's something I'm hoping that Ford will eventually improve. Probably not going to be able to improve it in this version of the Mach-E, but like, if they ever come up with another version, even like the 26 model, let's just give it more computer power. I think that's what it is. It just needs more computer power. The other dislike is the fact that sometimes the back door buttons just doesn't want to open. You just have to press it in twice sometimes, especially on this side. But that's going to be given. Other than that, like everything else, I love it. The glass roof is great. The drive quality is great. The build quality is great. Other than that, it's just a little nitpicky stuff, and it's been good so far. Now, if you guys are curious about my future plans with this Mach-E, well, I'll be happy to tell you this, that, there's been numerous times where I was thinking about trading this in for a Mach-E GT just because I want a faster speed. I want the Magna ride. I want things to be a little more refreshed now that, this is up to 100,000 miles. So there's the fear, there's the PTSD, there's the fear that, maybe one day this car, the battery may go out because my warranty's out. I think, I'm not sure if my battery itself is still out, so the warranty is out, but I know the overall bumper to bumper maintenance warranty is out. But, there's been numerous thoughts about trading this in for a Mach-E GT or even a Mach-E Rally. I think the Rally actually works really, really well in Chicago. My only gripe with the Mach-E Rally is that there's no glass roof. I love the glass roofs. I think I kind of have the glass roof, so I'm going to be deciding on getting the Mach-E GT. However, I think I want to hold off. I think Ford might be, I want to think that Mach-E is probably going to put together a second generation, knowing that they're developing a brand new battery. And so I'm thinking like, the battery tech will be updated and so forth. So I'm going to wait for a while and hold up and hope that they come out with a second gen Mach-E GT with improved battery tech, improved UI screen, improved performance overall. I'm sure a brand new look. Hopefully they bring back the grabber blue color. But yeah, that's my future plans right now, is that I'm going to continuously drive this car. And in fact, once I become more financially stable, I'm going to repair everything that needs to be repaired. I'm going to replace the tires. I'm going to replace the brakes and rotors. I'm going to fix the body of the car. I'm going to renew the paint and so forth, and make it mine again, and continue to go on road trips and make sure that this car continues to stay on road trip ready. So what are my final thoughts of the Ford Mustang Mach-E? Well, I think this is literally the best car I've ever owned in my life. I own an 88 Crown Victoria, a 2001 Ford Escape, a 2017 Toyota Camry, actually a 2007 Toyota Camry as well, and a 2010 Ford Fusion, a 2014 Ford Fusion. Out of all the cars I've driven in my entire life, this is literally the best car I've ever had in my life. I'm sure there's a lot of cars that are a lot more comfortable and so forth, but for me, this is my baby. This is what I love so much. Will I buy her again? Absolutely. But this time, the GT version, of course. Now, the overall thoughts about the car, you know, this is a fantastic car. Is great for commuting, it's great for road trips, it's great to have fun. It's an all-around car. It is gorgeous, it is sexy. This is literally the best color to have in the Mustang Mach-E. It's too bad they no longer have it for brand new Fords, brand new Mach-E's, because now they have Velocity Blue instead of Grabber Blue. But, you know, I digress. But I'm just amazed and surprised how well the car has held up, battery-wise, maintenance-wise. Aside from the issue with the voltage battery junction box, everything was great. By the way, huge shout out to Ford, because you know, they were able to take care of me throughout the whole time with the junction box issue. Not only they were great customer service, but they were able to reimburse majority of my car payments and my rental at the same time. So they've given me quite a bit of compensation for the troubles, because this was out for 7 months. But again, I would do it all over again, because this is my personal baby and I love her to death. Okay, everybody, that wraps it up for this awesome video I've been wanting to put together. 100,000 miles of the Ford Mustang Mach-E. I'm very proud of the achievement. I'm really curious about how long can this car hold up. Although I will say, this review does kind of overshadow the fact that there was another Mustang Mach-E owner that took it to at least 250,000 miles, because he does private ride sharing business. So shout out to that guy. I mean, that's awesome. Congratulations. So that will inspire me to continue on with the car, drive it for as long as I can until the next one comes. Okay guys, that wraps it up. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more EV content. Until the next one, guys, have a good one. Stay smashing.